Hello everyone and welcome to Pitskill.io Porsche Cup and BMW M2 Multiclass, sponsored by SimQuips. And tonight we are in Germany at the Nürburgring for this run around the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Going to be a interesting event here. Going to be a very different qualifying session to what everyone's used to. Going to be limited to just the 2 flying laps each of our drivers in each of the classes, so it's really going to be about getting that lap in when it counts, as Blanchard here takes the final corner and on to starting what will be his first flying lap of the session. As we've got a field of 30 drivers racing with us tonight, looking like a fairly even split between the Porsche Cups and BMW M2s, so going to be plenty of racing to be watching as we go through drivers who are taking part. We've got Nitro joining us as well as drivers make their way around the GP circuit. Hopefully everyone realises that you can shortcut the end of the lap on your out lap and go straight on to a flyer. Don't want to see anyone wasting time taking a whole lap of the Nordschleife for their out lap. That would be unfortunate. We're currently leading the way on the championship, and one of our first drivers to make their way onto the Nordschleife, Sergi Sebastian. It's going to be a technical challenge for the drivers. Lots of corners on this lap, lots to remember. I hope everyone's been able to get their practice in. And a very, very bumpy circuit. If the drivers were complaining that the Porsche Cups didn't like the bumps around the Zolder circuit last week, they're going to have an especially horrid time of it around here. And Sebastian attacking the circuit early on. He's going to need to do that here if he wants a fast lap of it. Only going to have the two runs, as we mentioned before. And I think a lot of these drivers will probably just be trying to stay on the safe side of it. With it being such a long lap, making a sizable mistake could be very, very costly. Especially if that mistake is made towards the end of their flying lap. We'll see who else is starting on to a lap here. We have, of course, Michalak. Looking to only be going for the 1 lap here. As he's yet to make his way onto the Nordschleife. We also have Callum Scotland going around the final corner to start their flying lap, and it just hit. Well, as you've seen, many people have hit the cones on the exit there, so I'm not sure if that's going to mean they're on a invalid lap now as they get started. Could be unfortunate, but I did see Callum Scotland earlier in the week taking off on the run down towards the start of the Nordschleife, so he's going to want to try and keep himself on the track during this race. Got a number of Porsche Cup drivers still sitting in the pit lane as Mr. SimQuips himself, Chris Wright, finds himself about a third of the way around. And everyone seemingly finding themselves a lot of space, which is easy to do on this track, apart from Johan Leff and Sergi Sebastian, who are deciding to pair up on their way around this circuit. And well, I think Leff is going to be looking for one hell of a slipstream as they come down onto the long straight here. But still plenty of laps to go before then, which if he thinks he does have the pace over Sergi Sebastian, he's not going to get a chance to show it through this section of the track. They head into the carousel. Keep it neat and tidy. Jude Neville is yet to take it onto the Nordschleife. And they peel off now to start what will be their one and only flying lap of the session. Matthew Parry also substantially into his lap now. Very strong. It's looking like Bjorn King taking a tentative approach into the carousel. Wonder how many drivers are still finding their feet with this track this week. It is a challenge of a circuit to learn. More corners than any other circuit by a country mile. And really does take a considerable amount of learning, considerable amount of practice. Especially for these drivers taking the Porsche Cup around it, and the TCX. They don't get the opportunity to drive those cars very much during the week. There's all sorts of things to learn for them. Car, track, combination of the two is not going to be an especially easy afternoon for them. As, wow, that was one hell of a slide around that corner. I'm glad we caught that one on camera. Well done, Bjorn, for holding that one. As now Johan Leff and Sergi Sebastian send on to long run down, and I don't think Johan Leff is quite close enough to really take advantage of the slipstream. No. Johan Leff not got that one close enough to the back of Sergi Sebastian. And we will have our first couple of times appearing on the timing tower. It is Sergi Sebastian across the line first with an 8-minute 20.1. Followed shortly behind by Johan Leff on a 8-minute 20.3. And what that has taken us past the 10-minute mark. So only one lap for each of these drivers. Regardless of how quickly they got out onto the circuit. Should have a flurry of activity as well. Balashve has just started onto a lap now. I can only imagine there was an incident earlier on in their lap. As now Slavik Klinger has posted a 8-minute 38.8 with Christian Fager, posting a 1:30.6 P3 for now. There's Bjorn King, who's looking like he was taking a tentative lap around that way, 8:28.7. And John Sawyer with a 8:31.5. See who else. We've got plenty, a very spaced out field. And unfortunately, the map making it very difficult to see who is actually going towards the end of a lap. Just right there with an 8:42.9. So substantially off the pace there, 4 rights. Let's see who else is towards the end of their lap. There's Will Price crossing the line with a 9:06. Themselves onto the board though, and I do fear there might be a number of drivers who don't even get a time on the board, as it looks like Cynic has not been able to post a time. Only sitting down in P22. This will put them, anyone who's not able to post a lap, so I'm going for Matthew Parry, who was not able to post a lap, they will all start below any TCX driver, those in the BMW M2s who do post a lap. So it's going to be a painful start to their race, especially if they don't manage to get the move made before they get onto the Nordschleife. There's the number 22 of Michelin, following their way down towards the final sector of the circuit. Merging onto the GP circuit, set a time of a 8:45.7, puts them P9 for now, just ahead of Nitro. There's the 130 of Martin, tentatively makes her way around the final few corners. And crosses the line for a 9:21.3. Is the slowest of the times we've seen so far from the Porsche Cups, but with plenty of drivers not even setting a time. We will be starting at least in front of the TCX field, I would imagine, as the lead car in our TCX pack is Magnus Mortensen. Got plenty of cars now out on their lap. Whoa! There's Tice Fuser in the that Baked Beans livery. Well, has taken an Armco barrier to the face. We'll need to return to the pit lane, get that car repaired, and get back out on track. I'm not sure how much of overtime this session has, so will be a challenge, I think, for some of these drivers to get their lap in if they do make a mistake at the start of their flyer. This looks like a number of our regular drivers not here for tonight's race. Perhaps the Nordschleife just a little bit too scary for some drivers. It was Carl Wilson. Also onto that. Should be an easier easier job of wheel-to-wheel racing for the BMW M2s on this circuit. Longer braking zones, more opportunity to run side by side. Could see some good racing with these cars, especially as they don't suffer quite as much from the bumps around this circuit. A little bit more straightforward, just driving the circuit rather than trying to keep the car underneath you. As for Boda, I think they might have just started another flying lap. Again, brings me back to the point of I'm not sure how much time they're going to get to complete their lap, as I think Wilson has just returned to the pit lane, as has another driver. So a few drivers making mistakes out there on the Nordschleife, and that is going to cost them qualifying position. There's Chappelle going well, as we see another driver return to the pit lane. Looking like this could be a race of attrition. There's Fuser also back in the pits. But the first driver to head out onto the Nordschleife, Magnus Mortensen, is still going well. All these drivers not having to attack the track quite so aggressively as they might at other circuits, with the qualifying session as short as it is and the lap here as long as it is. Really just pays to keep the car safe, keep it under control, put in a lap time, and it will be enough to at least put you ahead of those who are throw caution to the wind a little too much and well, as we've seen numerous times, take a wall to the face. So we come into the final 30 seconds before the checkered flag will be primed. It does remain to be seen how much time will be afforded these drivers to complete their lap, as we have yet another yellow flag and return to pit lane. Have the 127 of Barnes, I think, just starting onto a flying lap. Along with the 128 of Aminski. And good, so we do, oh! And that is unfortunate for Mortensen. Heavy clattering of the wall there. And looks like they are stopping the car. But the car must be severely damaged then, because I would have imagined even with a damaged car it would be better to try and bring it towards the end of a lap, with so many drivers not having finished their lap. Even if you can drag a battered and bruised car, as long as the steering still somewhat works. First of our drivers in the TCX class to complete a lap, hopefully, will be Benjamin Odin Vedvik. tyre squill of the number 18 of Flint just behind as well. Not quite close enough to benefit from the slipstream from Vedvik. And this will be by far the longest qualifying session we've had in this TCX series before. Fires Weidinger onto the final part of the circuits, and we're seeing our first two drivers on the TCX class complete their laps. And it is Flint currently fastest with a 9:33.1, not substantially slower than the slower of our Porsche Cups. As we have just a few drivers left to complete their flying laps. Biden will be next. On the line with a 9-minute 56.6. Will be a Janus Rondon, and but taking a shortcut into the pit lane, not wanting to complete their lap. An interesting choice there. As we've got the yellow flags out for the 137 and a return to the pit lane. As Daniel Barnes has got just under 6 minutes now remaining to complete his flying lap. That along with Svoboda, Barnes and Svoboda, the only two cars remaining out on circuit. And let's go on board and let's see what Barnes sees as he takes us around the green hell that is the Nürburgring Nordschleife. As I say, with only 3 drivers having actually posted a valid time during this qualifying session, just bringing the car safely around to the end of a lap is going to guarantee you at least being in the top 5 with only 2 cars remaining. So still worth these two completing this flying lap, regardless of how uncomfortable they might feel with the circuit. Still going strong. Neither of these two seemingly like they want to be coaxed off circuit just to bring this qualifying session to a close. But being almost a 10-minute lap here for the BMW M2s, it's going to be cutting it tight as to whether they both get to finish their flying laps. Barnes just about keeping it within track limits there. Last thing you want to do on a lap like this is to invalidate your lap. Of course, I suspect that is why the drivers who did go and clout the barrier really did end their lap, is because it must have invalidated it, so they wouldn't have got to set a time anyway. Two and a half minutes remaining now. Clock is ticking. 4's for Boda. Should be okay for Barnes. Come down onto the Nottingham Straight. As we wait, then we wait. Not the most thrilling end to a qualifying session, as unfortunately, with the way that the ACC telemetry works as well, I don't even know what his lap time is at the moment, so I can't even tell you how fast he's going. But as we are now onto the final run down onto the GP circuit. And it was worth Barnes completing that lap. Takes pole position in class with a 9:32.7, just 4/10 faster than Flint. With such a long circuit, surprisingly close at the top of the TCX class. Now with just Svoboda left to complete their lap, and is going to be cutting it extremely close. Everything at it. Should just about be able to make it in time as we get the longest possible qualifying session. As Svoboda cuts the beam with a 9:37.9, puts them P3 in class. Very much worth it for them to complete that lap. As our drivers line up on the grid, take you through our starting order for tonight's race. On pole position, it is Sergi Sebastian in the Mario Kart racing car. He'll be starting alongside Johan Leff. Two were not separated much on track in qualifying, and in the end, right next to each other on the times as well. Then in P3, we've got Bjorn King in his ever so distinctive A10 liveried car. He'll be starting alongside the Unsafety Racing liveried Christian Fager. John Sawyer starting in P5, and he'll be alongside Alex Kessa. In P7 is Slavek Klinger, starting alongside Alex Parry. Mr. SimQuips himself, Chris Wright, is starting P9 alongside Gregors Michalak. In P11 is Nitro. We'll be starting alongside Will Price. In P13 we have got Hef Martin. Rounding out our Porsche Cup, or at least the front of our Porsche Cup field. And then on pole position for the BMW M2s, we have got Daniel Barnes. He's starting Just behind him will be Jules Flint alongside Svoboda. Benjamin Odin Vedvik starting at P17 with Tobias Weidiger starting in P18. And then we come to the drivers who did not set a time in qualifying and will just be shuffled according, I believe, to the order they joined the session. Thus those will be Neville P19 with Haugstad starting P20, Bushnick in P21 with Wilson, BMW P22, User P23 with Mortensen in P25, Harry in P26, and we have Lorenzon in P26, Trapel starting P27 with Callum Scotland in P28, we've got Brundle in P29 with Arminsky in P30. That's right here. Be starting down in P31 will not get his favourite opportunity to be leading a train. He might be able to fight his way through a good number of TCX cars in this race. In P32 we've got Klinsken. And in P33 is David Grucci. As we come now towards the start finish line to get this race underway, and Sergi Sebastian with a great start, and it looks like Bjorn King is making up room around the outside of Johan Leff. They come down into the first corner, Sergi Sebastian with a confident lead there, and it looks like King did get up the inside of Leff, got a little bit of a slap on there coming out of the corner, but kept his composure and remained P2. That's behind Johan Leff, looking for a way through. He's well and truly up the inside. Johan Leff showing his pace and showing his intention also to get on after Sergi Sebastian. Down in the BMW M2s, Daniel Barnes holds on to the lead in class, but Svoboda up into P2. As Chappelle losing out gaining 6 positions is Flint, who started up in P2 in class, losing a number of positions. As Daniel Barnes letting through some of the Porsche Cup traffic. As Bjorn King finds himself leading a train of cars onto the Nordschleife. I suspect we're going to be seeing a yellow flag plenty during this race. The one thing that I think both classes of driver will be grateful for, as long as they qualify properly in their class, they shouldn't have too much traffic to contend with. With this being a 8.5 minute lap. Now, Johan Leff has caught within half a second of Sergi Sebastian as they throw their way through the Nordschleife. Johan Leff having to catch his car left, right and centre. Don't quite know how he managed to hold on to that one, but that was, I don't really call that a brown trouser moment in the business. As Johan Leff, keeping it pointing in the right direction, has lost 1.5 seconds due to that loss of control, as we've got the yellow flags out. I believe that was for the 71 car of Callum Scotland, who's now getting passed by F. Martin. Or is there a little bit of contact? Yes, F makes it her way past. And they're being joined by Perry. And Young King holding his own in P5. Now it's been passed by Christian Fager and John Sawyer, but holding his own in P5 has got Klinger and Wright. Oh, did have Klinger and Wright just in behind. But that was one hell of a crash there for Sylvette Klinger. Out onto the grass and into the curb. Oh, and well, we don't even get to see the end of that one from that camera angle. Klinger well and truly into the wall there. Daniel Barnes and Svoboda, their work cut out for them at the moment with the number of Porsche Cups that did not set a lap in qualifying. Getting some unexpected traffic. I'm going to have to try and let them go in what is going to be some precarious points on the track as we begin to get a little bit of field spread in our Porsche Cup class. It's the action of the filtering out of the Porsche Cups going to keep us entertained for the time being as Price makes his way through into the right place in the order, and next to pick his way through will be Callum Scotland, who takes himself out onto the grass, very nearly losing control. And just with Daniel Barnes left to cut his way through. Gregor Michalak now also cutting his way through the traffic. Has got Flint and Svoboda for close company and makes light work of the pair of those. F. Martin, who was battling further up the field, now down in P25. Not quite sure what has happened to her, the number 130 car. Let's see if we can get a replay of that. Oh, as there's door-to-door contact and a little bit of a rub with... Oh, I was saying a little bit of a rub with the barrier. I think it was ended up being a little bit more than that. And I think there's another incident involving Martin as well. That is Michalak. All looks okay for now. Okay, so back to the racing. As Matthew Parry picking his way through the order now, showing that he's got the pace that he didn't get the opportunity to show in qualifying. And that is... Oh, we have a spinner. That was John Sawyer. And Matthew Parry and Balazs Fahey, really the stars of the show here tonight, up 20 positions and 24 positions respectively. Phenomenal work to cut their way through the field. Only just over 7 minutes into this race and already making up that number of positions. As Matthew Parry really pushing, using all the track and then some. And is just, well, I say just, is 20 seconds behind our leaders. That is showing you how much field spread there is and how much confidence really plays in to driving around the Nordschleife. I think a number of these drivers have yet to put in the hours needed to really be comfortable with this circuit. Some of these drivers may be just underestimating the level of challenge that the 21 kilometres of this combined Nürburgring circuit does pose. As for the first time, they head on to, well, actually Sergi Sebastian completing the long back straight and now finishing his first lap of the race. just 8 minutes and 30 seconds, or 8 minutes and 22 seconds into this race. Faster than anything we saw in qualifying. Sergio Sebastian obviously feeling a little bit more comfortable. Now got a 4-second gap back to Johan Leff. And Alex Perry on the back now of Jude Neville. And Nitro not far behind either. As Matthew Parry into the pits. So serving his pit stop early along with Balazs Feher. Interesting choice of tactics for the pair of them. Obviously feeling that they've got the pace to attack and move forward, but wanting to get themselves into clear air to do so. It does mean they may end up catching the back of the BMW M2s. Again, as they will pass them in the pit lane. As we have white flags being waved for the slower cars. And where will Matthew Parry and Balazs Feher come out onto the circuit? As we have our BMW M2 class leader just going through now. So doesn't work out too badly for Matthew Parry. Will have just the one BMW to overtake, but then will very likely in the course of this lap have a number of Porsche Cups to overtake as well, that being the size of the field spread around this circuit. So it remains to be seen whether this tactic of pitting early is going to pay off for Parry. Looking at the difference in lap times, well, there is a the next car in front of him, Gregor Michalak, had a lap time of 9 minutes 20, whereas it was an 8 minutes 48 for Matthew Parry. So imagine he will close up that 21 seconds pretty rapidly. And then having to start to overtake the GP overtakes as well in order to move forward up the field. As Alex Perry and Callum Scotland drive onto the Nordschleife, their second lap of the circuit. Yellow flags out for the 119 car. Heading on to the GP circuit, but we'll keep our attention pinned on this battle for now over P9 in this race. These two showing a good level of confidence on this circuit. Attacking the curbs hard. Some levels of sloppiness in a track that is very hard to learn. That has allowed Callum Scotland up into P9. Alex Perry, just a little bit of moment. Lack of control there. And seizing seed position. We also have what was looking like a competitive Chris Wright in this race, up in P5 at the moment. And I think for a circuit where it pays the drivers just to not make too many mistakes, could be a good showing for Chris Wright here. Has spent a couple of seasons not up to what we came to expect from him for the first 2 seasons at least of this Porsche Cup races. Has been out-competed in recent seasons, but up in P5 now, keeping the car very much on the tarmac. And I think where other drivers maybe are showing a little bit of over-exuberance and having an untimely meeting with the wall, Chris Wright doing everything he needs to be up at the top end of the field. Oh, yeesh. Wow, that was a commentator's curse if ever I did see one. Apologies, Chris. And now Chris finding himself under pressure from John Sawyer. So he's had his own excursion into the wall as well. No one is immune to it. here around the Nordschleife. As we've got a battle brewing, or continuing, for the final podium position in the BMW M2 class. Michael Lorenzon chasing down Jules Flint. As you can see, Svoboda just ahead. There's not quite the gaps appearing in the BMW field as we were seeing from the Porsche Cups, with just Svoboda some 6 seconds behind our class leader of Barnes. Everyone else looking pretty close together. As John Sawyer is all over back of Chris Wright. It's the battle for P5. We also have a battle for P8 between there's Nitro, Callum Scotland and Alex Perry, as Scotland looking to the inside of Nitro. Who must have got himself recently just back past Perry. As Scotland now up into P8 in this race, and Nitro finding himself under pressure from Alex Perry. As they head through the carousel. And Alex Perry well off the circuit and into the barrier. Gets himself back underway again. We're looking like there's some traffic approaching from behind, so hopefully not too much of an incident there. As Perry going very sideways into the wall. And a forward clout into the opposite barrier for good measure. And he continues on his way. And was that blue flags waving that I saw? Surely not. Not on this circuit. There's, it looks like Alex Perry facing the wrong way again. What has happened to Perry? Or just gets it wrong, and wow, almost making the job easy there for the marshals, almost pulling right off into the recovery lane. And well, the panel gaps at the front of that Porsche looking nearly as big as the gaps in the barrier for recovering, because Alex Perry is going to be struggling for the rest of this race. Surely, the number of times he's clouted the barriers, there's got to be some suspension damage on that car, as John Sawyer looks to make his way past Chris Wright. This is a side-by-side drag race as they come out down towards the GP portion of the circuit, and it is John Sawyer who's managed to get himself ahead of Chris Wright. Chris Wright tucks up and will get, I was going to say, we'll get a sizable amount of slipstream down start-finish straight, but Chris Wright diving into the pit lane will serve his mandatory pit stop with just over 12 minutes remaining in this race. This race really flying by here with how long each lap is. About just our second lap being complete as Capel and Mortensen do battle over what is P5 in the BMW M2 class. Got a good number of drivers now diving into the pit lanes. Sergio Sebastian, Johan Leff and John Sawyer. Only three at the top of our field left to serve their mandatory pit stop. as Mortensen looking for a way to get by Chappelle. Also have a battle going on just ahead of this pair, with Zaboda leading Flint and Lorenz on. This battle for the final, well actually no, not for the final podium position, this is over P2 in the BMW M2 field, with Daniel Barnes having cleared off some 5 seconds ahead of this group. May just be able to see him as the camera pans around on this next section. Yep, we can just see Daniel Barnes ahead, so this race for the lead definitely not over, especially as I think we've seen a little bit of a mistake there from Barnes. Oh, we did indeed. As what has happened to Daniel Barnes, we did see that plume of dust coming up as Daniel Barnes takes an almighty shortcut over the grass, and a trip into the barrier. And this then sees the trio of drivers diving into the pit lane all at once, and I think Daniel Barnes might have a substantial amount of damage to repair on that car. So it'd be interesting to see what order they emerge from the pit lane. And wow, if we take a look at our front three, bear in mind these top three drivers have yet to make a pit stop in this race. Sergio Sebastian ahead of Johan Leff. Next on the road is John Sawyer, the 106 car, and he's currently 50 seconds behind Johan Leff in P2. That is the challenge that is provided by this Nürburgring combined circuit. And so as they emerge from the pit lane, it is Svoboda who inherits the race lead from Daniel Barnes. Svoboda stopped in his box. 31 seconds. Barnes for 33. So doesn't look like Barnes repaired too much of his damage. So still going to be a substantial amount of damage on that car, which did take an almighty clout into the barrier. So I can imagine it's going to be tricky for Barnes to keep up with Svoboda through this final stint of the race. As Johan Leff, keeping this race alive, battle for the lead at just 0.9 seconds. And that although we do have a substantial amount of field spread amongst the rest of the field, these two drivers very evenly matched. As we have a stop go 30 for pit lane infringement for Price. And going to be interesting to see whether he gets a chance to serve that one before the end of the race. And as Balazs Feher re-emerges onto the circuit, is now caught up onto the back of Neville. This battle over P7 in the race. We also have a battle just behind this between Nitro and Scotland. These two, I think, have been trading positions considerably through this race. And now, Scotland clearly showing he's got pace in hand over Nitro, just needs to find a way to get by and hopefully for him not make too many more mistakes. As Scotland makes his way through up into P9 yet again. You should just be careful to keep the car pointing in the right direction now. Keep it on track. Just a couple of laps remaining in this race. As the battle up at the top of the BMW field continues to be close. Svoboda and Barnes, despite the damage which Barnes must have taken from that hit into the barrier, still having a considerable amount of pace. Keeping very tight with Svoboda. As Balazs Fahey now pointing the wrong way. Oh, and well, this is a 15-minute replay, a 15-second replay, I should say. So he's been pointing the wrong direction for a considerable amount of time. Well, we're just going to see a bit of an Austin Powers moment here from Fahey. So he does manage to get his car back underway. But that has put him down into P11. Mistakes around this circuit can be so costly with the wall so tight and no grip whatsoever out on that grass. This is not one of your modern circuits with the days and days of runoff area. You make a mistake here and all you're going to get is a bumper full of Armco. As Sergi Sebastian and Johan Leff both dive into the pit lane. With the battle of the pit crews, as Sergi Sebastian is the first to stop in his box, who will emerge ahead. Did look like Sergi Sebastian managed to pull into his box enough in advance of the left to be able to maintain his position, but we will see how they fare on pit exit. As Carl Wilson facing Benjamin Odin Vedvik. This battle over P6 in class. So Sergi Sebastian is back underway with Johan Leff not far behind, but that gap now sitting at just over a second as they emerge back onto circuit for what will be their final tour of this Nürburgring combined circuit. As Nitro finding himself falling back towards drivers that he had previously overtaken, I think. Now it's Grigor Michalak. As John Sawyer makes his drive into the pit lane. Just a few drivers left to make their mandatory pit stop. There's just Sawyer, who will complete his pit stop soon, and Marco Lorenzon left to pit. It will be interesting to see if Lorenzon can actually get around to the pits before the timer runs out. Pit window will only be open for another 1 minute and 30 seconds, so Lorenzon going to be cutting it fine here with their approach to the pit lane. Just to hope not for no incidents on this lap. As Michalak side by side with Nitro. They come down towards the end of the circuit. Nitro holding position for now. As they emerge back onto the GP circuit. Nitro holding on to P9. Battle at the front of the TCX class rages on. Svoboda, looks like he's also carrying some damage to the front of his car. Has got Daniel Barnes for very close company. Where is Marco Lorenzon? Has got 20 seconds to make it into the pit lane. And this, the race that we're all interested in at the moment, will Lorenzon make it into the pits before the pit window closes? I'm not sure if he has. No, he's not made it. That is going to be a hefty penalty for Lorenzon. And, well, a hefty penalty on top of a unnecessary pit stop now. So what was looking like a strong race there for Lorenzon, who is currently 30 odd seconds ahead of our race leaders, would have come out in the pack towards the front of the BMW M2 field, is now going to, well, will still come out there, but with a hefty penalty to his name. There's Nitro and Michalak head on to the Nordschleife for the final time of asking. This is going to be a closely run battle for the next 8 minutes or so. Usually when your race engineer comes over the radio and says oh, 1 lap remaining, it's almost over, I think, well, this shouldn't take too long now, but for Nitro, this final lap is going to feel like it's lasting an eternity, as he's got Michalak, who clearly has the pace over him, breathing down his neck for the next 15 or so kilometres. And Balazs Fehi quickly looking like he wants to join this party as well. And we also have a tightening of the battle over the lead of this race, as Sergi Sebastian and Johan left separated by just 0.7 seconds. As what has happened to John Sawyer to make him return to the pits is the 106 car. I don't think that was relatively recently, so not sure why John Sawyer is in the pits. As Marco Lorenzo getting a drive-through penalty for his troubles. Michalak so close to the back of Nitro, and with Balazs Fehi bearing down on the pair of them as well. This is going to be a close battle as we come into the final minutes of this race. Side by side they go. They drop down the hill and it looks like move made for Michalak. And now Nitro needs to... as that's Michalak into the wall. And Nitro retakes the position as Balazs Fehi muscles his way through as well. What was a 1 position gain for Gregor Michalak turns into a 1 position loss down into P9 as Balazs Fehi doing heavy damage to the front of that car. Closing in on Nitro. As Sergi Sebastian and Johan Leff close in on the end of this lap, and the end of this race. It's just been a 4-lap race here of this Nürburgring combined circuit, and these Porsche Cup cars really looking like a handful around this circuit. Rears sliding out everywhere. As for the final time, these two drivers are now onto the long back straight. Johan Leff right in that slipstream of Sergi Sebastian. Is he gaining as they come down along the straight towards the curve? Doesn't quite look there's enough of a slipstream with these Porsche Cup cars. They're slippery through the air. Johan Leff not giving this one up. They come towards the end of this race to cross the start-finish line. Nose to tail goes Sergi Sebastian and Johan Leff. Well done to these two drivers. That was a supreme race all the way through. And to finish just 0.1 seconds apart. Fantastic finish from that pair of drivers. As Matthew Parry closes away on the final few corners and crosses the line to take P3. I think we have just seen a move made by Callum Scotland on Chris Wright. Oh, Chris Wright, heavy impact into the wall. It looks like there's already heavy damage to the back of that car. So that is what has allowed Callum Scotland to get up into P5. As Chris Wright again takes to the dirt. And, well, things going from bad to worse for Chris Wright. Was looking like a strong finish to this race. Should still be able to hold on to his P6 with Balázs Fejér some 25 seconds behind. Whatever drag he's getting from the damage to the front of that car should hopefully not be too substantial. Should bring him towards the end. There's the wheel. Yeah, it still looks like he's holding the wheel relatively straight there, so damage can't be that bad. As Daniel Barnes we'll go back and have a look at this one. Daniel Barnes made his way through up into the lead of the BMW M2 class. Oh, there's a little bit of a mistake there from Svoboda. Leaves the door open. Barnes now up into the lead of that class. And I have to check in to see what has happened between Michalak and Fejér. What on earth has happened here? Okay, so something very dramatic has happened here. So Michalak passed on Fejér. It was a relatively straightforward pass, looking like Fejér just carrying an amount of damage on the front of that car. Balázs Fejér taking a hell of a lot of apex curb, bouncing his car along the grass and into the side of Grzegorz Michalak, bouncing off the Armco, and I think that must be a severely damaged car of Balázs Fejér. And not quite sure why he's doing donuts after that display at the end of the race, but maybe he didn't quite realise we'd caught that carnage on camera. As we wait our final few drivers make it to the end of their lap. Daniel Barnes currently P12 overall and leading the BMW M2 class. Around the carousel. Oh, the mini carousel. And now onto the docking straight. And looking like there's heavy damage there for Svoboda, so let's see if we can pick up when this has occurred. Can't see anything on my tracker, but Svoboda with heavy damage to the front of that car and has now slipped about 7 seconds back from Barnes. I think what maybe looked like Svoboda going deep into a corner may have been him just going straight on into the wall. Very unfortunate end to the race for Svoboda, but Daniel Barnes, who spent so much of this race leading until a late in the race mistake, will round final 2 corners now. And take the class win here at the Nürburgring combined. And across the line sideways goes Barnes to take P1. Svoboda will cross the line in P2, but it was close with Jules Flint, who nearly caught up, who snatched that position away from Svoboda. A well fought race there by Flint, and not getting themselves caught up in too much of the action, but in contention there at the end as Chappelle crossing the line in P4 in class. As we've still got some close racing going on behind it. We've got Arminsky and Wilson, these two battling it out over P5 and 6 in class. Behind them, Vedvik and Mortensen, also very close. So let this battle unfold. As crossing the line in P5 in class will be Arminsky, followed by Wilson, Vedvik and Price. So Vedvik and Mortensen cross exchanging positions as they come over the line. The two teammates there obviously sharing out the points amongst them. And that was a very exciting race here around Nürburgring. Oh, thank you very much for watching, everyone. It was a slightly hectic end to that race, and well, considerable amount of time between our two classes finishing off that race. But in the end, congratulations to our podium sitters for both of the classes in the Porsche Cups. Sergi Sebastian, Johan Leff and Matthew Parry. And in the BMW M2s, it was Daniel Barnes, Svoboda and Jules Flint. Do make sure, if you enjoyed this Porsche Cup racing, that you sign up on pitskill.io to get yourself involved in all of the racing that happens over there. Do also remember to like and subscribe on this channel to catch the rest of the Porsche Cup and BMW M2 Multiclass. And tune in again here next week when we'll head to Donington Park in the UK for a slightly shorter circuit. And do make sure you subscribe over at the pitskill.io YouTube and Twitch channels, where you'll see the rest of our broadcasts. Especially do tune in on Wednesday, the VIP Trophy, which will be returning to the Nordschleife. That is our flagship series, where the best of the best fight it out in a GT Freeze. Always an exciting one to watch. And all that remains for me to say is thank you very much for watching. And until next time, I will leave you with the highlights from tonight's race. Good night.